Hey guys, welcome back to the channel here in my office working away on the next video. And in this video I'm going to be covering the ultimate upgrade for my RV that you could use on a boat, you could use it on a motorhome, but I have a travel trailer that I'll be upgrading the inverter and the power system. And what I've chosen to do is go to a Victron Energy Multiplus hybrid inverter, which I'll explain in a little bit. But I'm getting a lot of questions and comments from a lot of friends of mine that want to get started into the solar. You know, a lot of people are buying RVs right now and want to be able to boondock and not have to be plugged into a generator or park power, that sort of thing. So I get a lot of questions, hey, without spending gobs of money, $10,000 on lithium batteries and doing all this stuff, how do I just put a simple system in with a solar panel, a charge controller, to keep my lead acid battery, my marine battery that came with the camper charged? And then from there, maybe put a small inverter on, just an economical 300 watt or something like that, just to run a TV set. What I'll do is I'll include the links in my description, and let's go ahead and go on to my YouTube channel, Bill's Cool Projects here. I'll bring that up and running. And if you go to my playlist, I have solar that I added onto my truck topper. I have how to build an RV solar power system, which covers all my panels, that sort of thing. And then I have one I put on my Jeep. And then I have a big one, the grid-tied solar for the house that I did. And then how to do an off-grid well pump, which after the Texas event, a lot of people were watching that. I think that's got several thousand views now. And that's how to do an off-grid well pump, run your well pump on solar. But if you want just something simple, what you can do is duplicate what I did on my Jeep or my truck. And real simple. So let me bring this up. I'm not going to write, but I added a solar panel onto the back of my pickup truck, and that's a Jinko solar panel. It's roughly 3 feet by 5 feet, and you could put that on top of your motorhome, on your pop-up camper. It's small, 3 foot by 5 foot. You should be able to find that kind of space. I also show you how to mount it. You could use L brackets, but I found these really cool ABS ones on Amazon, which in the description, I actually have the links on how you get it, and they come in black and white. Put that down, come into a small charge controller, nothing fancy. But that panel, you could buy that for about 185 bucks here. I'm in Colorado. Here's a supplier that sells that, and that's 315 watts of power. And that's 185 bucks. Put in a small charge controller. I recommend Victron Energy. I'm not endorsed by any of these manufacturers. I've never gotten a dime endorsement from anybody, actually, in all the videos I've done, like 60 videos now. But that little charge controller, and I'll put the link on Amazon, that's about 70, 80 bucks for a, say, 50 volt, 20 amp little charge controller. So you run 2 wires into it, 2 wires out through a breaker, and then into your battery, and just tap onto your battery, whether it be lead acid. And the neat thing about the charge controller, the MPPT, it's maximum power point tracking. I don't want to geek out too much, but it increases the efficiency. But you can put the app on your phone and download the Victron Energy app and have Bluetooth connection into your camper. So at any time you can set the parameters for voltage, whether you're using, if you go to lithium or if you just have your lead acid, you can set all the parameters, and that's pretty much it. So for, say, 185 bucks, maybe another 10, 15 bucks and some wire, maybe the little charge controller for 70, 80 bucks, you're up and going with a solar system that you can put on your boat. You could put it on, I got a neighbor that I'm helping right now, putting it on a storage container in a storage lot. He has a landscaping business, and he wants something just real simple, one panel to keep his battery charged on his tools, and maybe a trickle charger running on his equipment. And that's just a simple way to do it. So you start off there, and then modularly, I think that's a word, modularly, build onto your system. Okay, put a nice little inverter. I was in the auto parts store yesterday, and there was like a 200 watt inverter for like 50, 60 bucks. That's more than enough to run a TV set, small refrigerator. So that's how you can get in. So watch the video. I'll put the links for my Jeep and also my truck topper solar panel in the description. Just copy that on your RV. But anyway, I've progressed and I've had components, and eventually I went to where I'm at now, which is the ultimate, and that's using the Victron Energy Multiplus. So the Multiplus inverter is a hybrid. It's a battery charger, it's a transfer switch, everything all in one. So let me spin around here and I'll show you what I basically took out of my camper, and then I'll show you how to install the Multiplus if you want to go that expensive. Multiplus right now, pre-configured. I'll give the Amazon link for it, but you can get it pre-configured for whatever parameters you're using, what kind of batteries you're using. Just tell them if you're using lead acid, if you're using AGM, if you're using lithium iron phosphate. They'll pre-configure it for you, so when you get it, it's a plug and play. And I'll put the Amazon link in the description. But it's also a transfer switch, and it's a hybrid inverter. So when I'm connected to shore power, I no longer need a transfer switch because it does that item. And I'll show you a little bit down further in the video on how I can monitor everything on a touch display and get real fancy geeking out. But again, let me spin around here and I'll show you what I've got. So this is the 3000 watt Renogy inverter that I used for a little while. And amazing inverter. So my Multiplus Victron Energy replaced this inverter because it's a 3000 watt also hybrid inverter, 12 volts DC. And then I replaced the transfer switch. So a lot of travel trailers, maybe the one that you have right now, does not have a transfer switch in it. But I wanted to be able to switch from shore power to my solar. So I had it running in idle mode on solar continually. Then when I plugged into shore power, it would flip over. And then provide the 115, because you don't want the inverter on your fuse panel, breaker panel, at the same time you're plugging shore power into it. You have to isolate those two or else it's a bad thing. Don't do it. And then from there, I replaced the battery charger, which I also upgraded a little while ago to actually a 4-state charger. And a lot of you folks right now, you probably don't know it, but your RVs have a 12 volt DC power supply. That's what it is. That's all it does. It's a power supply putting up constant 12 volts DC. That's running your lights, that's running your furnace in the RV, it's running your water pump, everything at 12 volts DC inside a trailer. But the problem with that is that's also keeping your battery charged up. So if you have a deep cycle marine, lead acid battery, whatever, you're just putting 12 volts DC on it continually. And I have a lot of friends that ask, well, why is my battery only lasting a year or two? And I just spent, you know, $100 and some $175 on a deep cycle marine battery, and I only got like a year and a half out of it. It's because they're leaving it plugged in all year, and then it's just putting power on it from the power supply. So this is a Progressive Industries. It's actually a 4-state charger. So it's going to do your bulk charging. It's going to do your absorption, it's going to do your float, and then also has a little jumper on here from lithium or lead acid or AGM, and that'll do your equalization of the battery, which you need to do periodically. So it does that automatically. And I'll put the link in the description. And it also has a wizard that you can remote mount, stick it on the cabinet or whatever you want to do. And it'll give you flashing lights, which means if it's in bulk state, absorption, float, etc. And it's got a cable that plugs into it. So this is a very good unit. It's got the fans, and the neat thing is it slides right into your WIFCO breaker box and your fuse panel. So if you take the cover off where you see your fuse and your breakers, go down to the bottom section, take out your 2 screws at the top of the WFCO unit that you have, most likely, call it WIFCO. Look in the bottom and you'll see the existing power supply. That comes out. You put this in positive and negative, which is pretty marked out right here. And then you have your voltage, your line, neutral, and ground that's going to plug into the AC side. And then you have, like I said before, your remote. So anyway, that's going to save your batteries and it's worth it. And again, I'll put the Amazon link. The neat thing about this transfer switch is that on the back of it, it actually has brackets. So on the back of that WFCO unit, this actually slides down onto the back of that unit, and it is made by Withco. So anyway, that wraps it up. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions on any of this stuff, please, just leave it in the comments section. I read all the comments late at night, and I respond to quite a few of them. And check out my other playlists on e-bikes, on my hot rod builds, on my solar, all the different stuff that I'm doing. So anyway, let's go out into the back storage area and let's get this Multiplus installed. So FedEx just brought me my new Victron Energy Multiplus hybrid inverter, and it is the 12 volt 3000 watt, and can't wait to get this installed. Major progress. Got the unit mounted. It's supposed to be mounted vertically for ventilation, natural convection, but you could also mount it on its side or flat on its back. It does have a fan inside it, so when it gets up to temperature, if it gets too hot, the fan will blow and blow out air. So you're required to have space all the way around it, which I do. So this should be fine. I have it turned on. I have my positive connected, my negative. I don't have the AC loads and shore power connected yet. I do have my network connection to my GX controller and my GX Cerbo unit, which we'll cover a little bit later. But checked on everything inside, everything's looking good. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna call it quits for the night. Tomorrow, hook up my shore power and my AC load, put the cover on, and this is going to be it for this project. Alright, got the wiring all completed, got positive and negative, and they also give you another terminal here if you wanted to take in your solar charge controller or another accessory. You could bring it into here. Here's my shore power, comes into the first connector. And then my power to the camper comes into the second connector, and that's the inverter power. And then these two outputs are for devices. Say if you had a washing machine that you don't want to run on the solar, that the only time that this plug becomes active is when you're connected to shore power. That's what this other two ports are for. And I have, again, my network cable to the Phoenix GX control panel. It turns the inverter off and on, and also I could do the charger only without the inverter running. And then this goes to my Cerbo GX, which I'll show in a little bit. So all of my shore power is coming all the way from the back corner, the driver's side back corner of the RV, and comes into my Progressive Industries Electrical Management System, or EMS for short. No pun intended. But this monitors frequency, low frequency, high frequency, also low voltage, high voltage, any miswiring like neutral and line reversed. Say if you're plugging into somebody's garage, maybe having it wired wrong, and gives me codes for anything. And then within milliseconds, if it detects any issue with anything, the relay drops out and disconnects all the power from the RV before it can fry your electronics, like your refrigerator or stereo TV or whatever. So this is all complete, and I'm ready to fire this thing up for the first time. Let's go ahead and turn the main power on here for my inverter power. There, I'm live. All right, it's working. And my cover's back on, 4 screws. Again, it's mounted on its side, which is fine. And my inverter is on, has all the lights here, and your switch for on, off, and charge only. I also have a duplicate of this panel inside, which is the Phoenix GX control panel. So this is the control panel. It replaces my other for my Renogy, and just mounts right in there. And I have the same controls as a switch on front of the Multiplus. And right now the inverter's on. I could turn it off, and if I go to the left position, it would be charge only without the inverter running. And what's really cool is this is a hybrid inverter, once again, that if I'm plugged into a wall socket in somebody's garage or
running on a small generator, I can actually dial in what's the maximum current that I'm going to draw from that plug, my generator or whatever. And if I need extra power, it's going to actually supplement it with my inverter and my batteries. So that's why it's called a hybrid. So I'll set that at like 15 amps. And let's go look at the Touch 50 display, which is going also into the Cerbo GX. And there's my touch display, and you can see I drew off the batteries just a little while ago, and you see the dots moving. This is my solar, and it shows that I'm charging right now with the little dots moving and charging the battery. And let's go ahead and turn the load on right now, and let's see what happens. I'm going to run the air conditioner, and I'm not plugged into shore power, so this is going to be my shore power that I'm limiting to 15 amps. And then here's my AC loads for the entire camper, which is the air conditioning, microwave, all the stuff inside the camper. And this is the Multiplus in the middle. All right, so I just turned the air conditioning on. It's going to kick in. And now you can see the dots from my solar, which I'm not in direct sun right now, are coming over and going up into the Multiplus. And then my battery is also, see the dots moving and going up into the Multiplus to supplement my solar power. And right now I'm 385 watts. This is a Dynamics air conditioner. It's a Dynamics air conditioner, and I have an easy start on it, so it should kick in right now and show a load coming up. Okay, so now my air conditioning compressor's kicked in, and over here I'm drawing 1100 watts as it's running, 1122. I have 493 watts coming in from my solar panel going into the Multiplus. I'm also supplementing a bit of that power coming off of my lithium batteries, which I have 6 Battleborn 100 amp hour batteries. And you see the dots are moving. This is so cool. Comes into the Multiplus, and then it's my AC load. So right now I'm drawing about 1170 watts, so 1170 watts to run my air conditioning, which is not that bad. And the next thing to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to plug shore power in, and that would be the AC input, and let's see what it does. Check this out. Haha, this is so cool. So here's my grid power. I'm pulling 1000 watts coming into the Multiplus. Multiplus is then putting out 1442 watts or so, and I have my grid limited to 15 amps again on my control panel here. I'm set at 15 amps, and I'm drawing 1077 watts. Let's take and turn this down. Let's turn this down to 10 amps. I'm at 10 amps, and I'm only drawing now 982 watts from the grid. Very cool. And you can see I'm generating excess power, so my solar is actually coming into the Multiplus, providing supplemental power to that. And then also my solar, because I'm not using all the energy that the solar's producing, I'm actually putting energy back into the battery again. Man, I love just seeing everything that's going on here. This is really cool. My air conditioning also went up to about 1460 watts, which is typical what it's going to draw. I am impressed. So 982 watts coming in from the grid. And let me come back here and turn this up, because I have a 15 amp breaker, actually a 20 amp. Let's go up to 15 again. And now I'm drawing more power from the grid. Let's see what it settles on at, 1115 watts. So it's providing close to all the power I need. The solar is also providing Multiplus power for the AC loads, and then also there's enough excess power. You see the dots moving to the left. So right now I have excess solar plus the grid I'm tied into. I'm actually charging the batteries up as I'm running the AC. This is amazing. So that's what a hybrid inverter can do. All right, so the other condition is that I don't have much of a load on my AC. It's just running a fan right now until it shuts off. But my grid's providing 1413 watts, so I have it limited at 15 amps once again. So I'm putting power into the Multiplus inverter. It's going out and providing power here, 340 watts. And then you see by the dots, the battery charger in this is also providing power and going into the battery to charge the battery. And then my solar just shut off. It didn't require any load. But just a few seconds ago, I had power coming from the battery charger from Multiplus into my battery. And then also my solar was giving input into the battery. All right, now that I showed you the display, let's go in and look at the power plant. Basically is what it is. That powers the camper, lithium batteries and charge controllers, all that good stuff. We have a bed in the front of the trailer, and up underneath the bed is where I have everything mounted. Look at my other video, I'll put the link in the description. And let's get some light in here. And I got my pointy stick. So let's go over what I have. So this is the charge controller that goes to the external solar, which right now is the panel on my pickup truck through an Anderson connector, through a cable that comes directly into here. And then I have and that is a 100 volt 20 amp MPPT charge controller. And then down here I have the solar charge controller for the camper solar panels, which there are 4 315 watt panels up on this trailer. And then right next to it I have the Cerbo GX, which is just amazing. Right here I have the HDMI cable that goes to the Touch 50 display, and then also off of its pigtailed a USB connector plugged into the USB port that gives it the power. And then these 3 connectors are the VE direct connectors. They're a proprietary cable that's made by Victron Energy. One cable is going into this charge controller to read the data off of it. That's what you see in the display when I punch up the graphics. And then the other VE direct cable goes into the other charge controller. And then the other VE direct cable is going into the 712 battery monitor that I have. All these devices are also Bluetooth, so I can go into the Victron Connect app and connect that way and look at each individually. Over here in the rear, that blue cable is just an Ethernet cable that goes to the Multiplus jack. So that Ethernet cable goes to the Multiplus that's connected. My other Ethernet cable coming from the Multiplus goes into my Phoenix GX controller, which I showed you earlier, and that's how I can limit the shore power, the amount of current coming in with that dial. And also I can turn off the inverter and just leave it on charge, or just turn the Multiplus off totally. The other thing you notice in here, I have 2 fans pushing air through the other side of the box here. And I have just a little $10, I think it was 15 buck, little thermostat controlled relay with my temperature sensor probe right here. I have it set when it hits 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the fans kick on and pull air through the unit here to keep this cool down in here. The main heat that I have being generated inside this box is from the solar charge controller off of the solar panels up on the roof. Then over here you can see here's my shunt for my 712 Victron Energy battery monitor. All of my negative power comes right through here. I have 6 lithium iron phosphate LiPo batteries, Battleborns, which I absolutely love. They have their own internal BMS and it's hard to mess them up. So 6 are in parallel, and here's my wire coming into my negative side, goes into the shunt for the battery monitor, the 712. And here's my positive bus for all of my positive wiring, and my negative, and then I have a cutoff switch over here on the outside that cuts the total power off for the camper. And then I have various breakers. I have my T-fuse, which you need coming off of the positive power off all the batteries. That's a fast blowing T-fuse. outside on the Multiplus power going in. I have an A&L fuse that gets a 300 amp. So I have another breaker here for power coming into the camper, another breaker there, and so on. But that's it. So on the front of my unit, I have the display here, and then here's the 712 monitor, which stays on all the time. And then I could read percentage of battery. Right now I'm at 100%, and has a little thermometer there that shows the battery in full. So on my truck, which is a separate video, I put the link in the description. I have a 350 watt solar panel up there. And then I come down through a breaker, and then here's my Anderson connector right next to my 7-pin plug that I could plug in the camper when I'm connected. And here on the front of the camper is my 7-pin plug that normal campers have. And then here's my Anderson connector that goes to the charge controller. Works very well. I also made up an extension cord because sometimes I might be in a camp spot where the truck's parked sideways and this is too far from the bumper. So I have a 20-foot extension cable made up that I can plug in here and just jumper out to the solar panel. Also in the future, if I want to just lay a solar panel on the ground or have a couple just on the side fixed, I could also plug those panels into this Anderson connector. Works extremely well. Then up on the trailer, I have 3 solar panels mounted. In my previous video, I had to raise them up higher. I do have a vertical panel on the back using these connectors. Again, I take you through all that in the previous video, how to mount that. But it's surprising how much sun I get in the morning and evening. That panel really chips into the power. You can hear the snow banging off of my roof here. It's about 22 degrees mid-April, typical Colorado. 22 degrees and snowing. All right, so let's get the ladder and I'll just give you a quick view of the solar panels up on top of the roof. All right, see I have the solar panel up front. That's a 315 watt using those same ABS brackets that I used on the rear. The back of the camper, I have a raised platform that I fabricated out of 1-inch square steel tubing, and that raises this whole assembly up above all my obstruction like the vents and the bubble for the shower. And those are 2 315 watt Jinko panels. So like I mentioned in the video, this is the ultimate system as far as I'm concerned with the Victron Energy solution. Just a major upgrade to this RV. I never plug into power. But again, it's modular as the budget permits, and as you can add this on and build your system. Start off with 1 solar panel like I mentioned earlier, and then build it to the point where you got the ultimate system like me. But we originally first started out with an inverter. We wanted to watch TV at night. We didn't have 115 volts and just run off the battery, so I picked this up at like AutoZone or Napa. It's a cigarette lighter plug inverter, and I think it's good. That's 150 watts out of this little guy. And then up in the closet above the TV, I put a cigarette lighter plug in here. That's how we started. It was about 6-7 years ago. And then I just plug that cigarette lighter plug in here, and I take the TV plug it into the top, and we were watching TV at night. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment field. Be happy to answer anything that I may have missed in this video. If you have any ideas for future videos you'd like to see me do on my hot rods, my e-bikes, my diesel truck motors, or whatever, all the different crazy stuff that I do that's I consider cool projects, just put it in the comments, and I definitely read them, and we'll get back to you. But anyway, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.